Start the stream. All right, so now we should be live. All right, so welcome everyone to another Dental Shadowers virtual shadowing session. My name is Krupa and I'll be facilitating the session today. We have Dr. Rice, who is a general dentist, and he will be presenting about general dentistry, and we hope you all enjoy. So Dr. Rice, whenever you're ready, you can take it away.
Thank you, ladies. Thank you for having me. And, I want to thank all of you who are watching for, I guess, caring enough about your future to invest time in it. I can tell you all after being in dentistry for almost 27 years now that I've worked with tens of thousands of students over the years and lots of young dentists, and I still do. And the people who show up are the people who are the most successful. And I don't want to push you down a lane for what success is for you. I think success is probably different for all of you. For some of you, it will be about family, and some of you, it'll be about the ability to travel. Some of you, it's going to be about balance. Some, it's going to be about, making a lot of money. And for most of you, it'll be a combination of things. But the one common ingredient is, however you define success, showing up and being present is your greatest ticket to making it happen. So I'm going to share a little bit about myself so you understand my pathway. I'm going to talk a lot about what I see your pathway is. I'll kind of share how I know some of the things that I know. I've watched a few of your episodes. I know most of the people who've been on here as guests. Many of them have been students of mine over the years. So it's really fun to be here with all of you today. And how I want to really share my story with you is, I'm not your typical general dentist. So I very much live a hybrid life. I have a private practice in upstate New York that I've owned for 25 years. My team is on the screen in front of you now. There are 4 of us dentists. There are 4 hygienists, 4 dental assistants, and 4 people who work up front. And we've grown as a team over the last, 2.5 decades. We've not really lost a lot of people on our team over the years, only 2, in fact. And most of our success has to do with who we've become with each other, the culture that we've built inside of our 4 walls. And this is going to sound maybe sad to some of you, but maybe exciting to some of you, is we are probably the only ones who know how great our dentistry really is. Unless we're working in a smile zone where a patient can really see how great the dentistry is, or somebody comes in pain and we're getting them out of pain. But a lot of success in dentistry is about the people that we surround ourselves, the relationships we have, the experiences we provide people. So this team here is one part of my life. The second part of my life is I'm a speaker in dentistry, and I've spoken in, 10 different countries over the last 15 years or so. And it's really cool. So I get to, before this whole COVID thing, I get to be on a plane and flying to different cities and different countries. And I work sometimes in a room of 50 people. And I think the biggest room I was ever in was 1,800 dental people. And the biggest room I was ever in total was a little over 2,500 people, and was actually a fashion conference of all things. So really cool. Me, dentist, was the keynote speaker at a fashion conference. So I share this with you guys because we were talking before we started live here that dentistry is so cool because you have total control over your life, and you can be whoever you want to be. And there's so many opportunities. So for me, I'm a dentist part of the time. I'm a speaker part of the time. And honestly, most of my time today is being a connector. So doing things like this, I'll meet, 100 pre-dental students, or a couple hundred dental students, or a few hundred dentists, hygienists, assistants. And a large part of what I do is try to help people get from where they are to where they want to go. And that isn't always because I know all the answers, because that's just not true. It's just over the course of 2.5 decades, I've met a lot of really incredible people. And I have this really great Rolodex. So no matter what city I go to or what country I'm in, If you want to go there and you want to meet people, and as you kind of get into this applying to dental school, very thankfully, I've met almost all the people you're going to meet in dentistry. So one of the coolest things I get to do is just introduce really good people to other really, really good people. It's a ton of fun. So my journey was this. I went to undergrad, just like all of you. I went to a small liberal arts college in Buffalo, New York called Canisius. It was great. I think there were maybe 400 people in my graduating class. So I really knew everybody. That was a good fit for me. From there, I went to Buffalo's dental school. Loved it. I taught part-time at that school for 9 years after dental school as well. That's how much I liked it. So I think unlike many people who maybe had sort of a so-so dental school experience, I knew it was going to be hard. I expected there were going to be days that I wasn't going to really like so much. But overall, I met some awesome people and really liked being there. From dental school, I went and did a general practice residency program. You're going to get 20 dentists on here, and you're probably going to get 20 different answers of should you do a postgraduate program? Should it be a general practice residency or an AGD or specialize or go right into practice? And I'm a big advocate for postgraduate programs. I have done tons of studying to share with you all that if you want to be a general dentist, it doesn't make a bit of difference whether you do a GPR or an AEGD. It's all about what that program has to offer you. So some of you, when you get through dental school, are going to decide you want to do more of this procedure, this one, or this one. And your job is just to figure out which programs offer more of what you want, and they have less people competing to do those procedures. Kind of like your job when you're applying to dental school, right? I mean, I know goal number one is get in somewhere. I would second, third, and fourth your outlook on that. Your first job is get into a dental school. And, job number two is target dental schools that you feel like you're going to have the best experience and education at. And if I could throw in a minimize your student debt, I think that's probably an important factor in today's world too, because dental schools, you guys know as well as anybody, are pretty expensive. So after my residency program, I was an associate. So I went to work for another dentist, and I did that in 3 different practices until I found the one that I really fell in love with. And that wasn't a bad thing, actually. It felt bad in the beginning when it felt like I wasn't working out and I was like working really hard and what was it for? But after a couple of years, I could sit back and really see that there was always a lesson for me to learn. And the first practice I went into, I learned who I didn't want to be when I grew up. I learned like all the stuff, like how not to treat my team, how not to treat patients. And then from there, I learned all these really great lessons on how to treat a team, how to be a leader, how to make patients feel really welcome and safe in a place that like we're really in people's face and it's not a safe place. But when you can do that, you really can have lots of patients coming in your door because most dental practices don't know how to do that. So I learned lots of lessons from those 3 practices before I bought my practice. And that was really helpful for me. So what I know from my friends, as well as from lots of dentists that I've taught over the years is, some of you are going to like get through dental school and you're going to be like, I want to be a practice owner right away. And that can be right for you if you're ready. Some of you are going to be like way over on the other extreme. And you're not going to be ready for like 6 years, 7 years, 8 years, or maybe you'll never be ready. Maybe you never actually want to own. Maybe you just want to go to work for somebody. And all of those things are okay. And all of those things, I would highly encourage you just to spend time with yourself. Now as a pre-dental student trying to get in, who do you want to be when you get to dental school? And then when you're in dental school, who do you want to be afterwards? And then as time goes on, who do you want to be? And I think as you guys are starting to see, and you'll see more of as I share more of my story, is your journey can change over time. You can start off in one place in dentistry, and then over the course of time, you can shift gears. And that's the coolest part about it. It doesn't have to stay the same. And you are in charge of your future. And that's your greatest asset. It's you. you are going to get this amazing degree that opens doors, whether it's in private practice and academics, on the industry side. I know lots of friends of mine who work for dental manufacturing companies. Some of them do research, some of them speak. So there's so many areas in dentistry to explore that I would really only encourage you to ask lots of questions from as many people who do different things in dentistry as you can, which is why I love what you all do here together, because you're bringing in so many different people. Because if you don't meet people who do those things, if you don't ask those people questions about what do we love, what don't we love, what's been a struggle, what's been the most rewarding, how did you do it, then you won't even know that it exists in dentistry. So just ask lots and lots of great questions. And then, like I said, I bought my practice. It was my second day as an owner that I hired my first associate to come and work for me. I knew I was going to do that before I bought it. His name was Mark. Awesome guy. We're still great friends today. We still practice together today. And then about 10 years later, we brought a dental specialist in our practice. We bought his business. So his team joined our team. And then a little over 3.5 years ago, we brought in Laura, and she was our youngest dentist who came in and is designed to really see most of my patients now that I do some dentistry, some speaking, and some connecting. So we wanted to have our team functioning on all cylinders all the time. And it really worked out for all of us because we all have this one common vision. We all just play a different role in that vision. And last but not least, most of my life today is with Ignite DDS. So that's kind of how we met. I know a lot of you follow our Instagram page at Ignite DDS. So you've seen what we do. We work with we work with lots of dental students. We work with lots of young dentists. And again, our goal is to teach great lessons, to kind of show you how to get to where you want to be faster, with less headaches, less falling down, be able to pick yourself up faster when you do fall down, and just introduce you to some amazing people. So speaking of which, that's my wife, Anastasia. We live in St. Pete, Florida, even though my practice is in upstate New York. So just another example of you can do this any way you want. I travel to speak a lot before COVID. I'll do that again after COVID. So for me, it was fun. It was fun to hop on an airplane on Sunday night, and I would fly from where I am today home in St. Pete, Florida. I would fly back to New York. I would do dentistry on Mondays and Tuesdays. Sometimes I would stay in Amherst, New York, and I would work with some of the manufacturing companies that we work with at Ignite DDS. Sometimes I would hop on a plane on Wednesday and go to another city. And if I was in the middle of the United States or East, I came back home. And I would hang out Friday, Saturday, Sunday in St. Pete. And if I was on the West Coast, sometimes my wife would hop on a plane and meet me. And we'd be in Arizona or California or, like Seattle, like super fun cities. So we would travel together. It's really a ton of fun. And I would encourage all of you to explore the ability to have that kind of hybrid life. So here's what I know about your journey. And I know you're hearing lots of things that are really important as far as dental school admissions. I have sat on admissions committees for multiple years at 4 different dental schools. So I'm just going to be brutally honest with you. The stats, your GPA, the number, sad, it matters. The better the number, the better your shot. Your DAT score, the better the number, the better your shot. Shadowing, huge. Clearly, you guys are trying to incorporate virtual shadowing right now because it's really difficult to get into people's practices. If you can't physically get into a practice today, which I get, I would just encourage you to reach out if there are dentists in your area. If any of you guys are, remotely near St. Pete, like message me, email me. We can just meet and grab a cup of coffee or talk. Find dentists in your area who will just sit down and meet with you and talk and take what you're doing right here and bring it to a really personal level as often as you can. because dentistry, as big as it seems to you right now, so spread out with so many schools and so many students, it's a super small community. We all know each other. So if you do, the more you do of this, the more you do with sitting down and talking to people, the more likely you are, you're going to land in a room for an interview. Somebody's going to see a list of people that you've had connections with. And maybe it's a part of your CV, maybe it's a letter of recommendation, maybe it's a part of your personal statement, but they're going to see a name that they recognize and they're going to have an instant bond. And that bond is the one thing that trumps the statistics. It's the one thing that can set you apart, because lots and lots of people have a high GPA, lots of people have high DAT scores. So what's really going to set you apart when you have the numbers that schools are looking for is your shadowing experience, is your extracurricular, which I'm going to go against the grain and swim upstream on this. As somebody who sat on an admissions committee, what I don't want to see from you is a laundry list of stuff you participated in. When I see a laundry list, the first thing I think of is this person's participating with all these things to pad their resume. So it makes me believe, whether it's true or not, that you're just trying to look good for this program to get into my school. What I would much rather see as far as extracurricular goes is kind of consistency and devotion to a shorter list of things. And honestly, it doesn't matter to me as someone on an admissions committee what those things are at all. What I want to see in those activities is your passion. What I want to see is that you truly love them and your commitment. And that's going to show up when I look, at your application and I see, oh my gosh, Krupp has done this for 10 years. Kathleen's done this for 5 years. Like, that makes me feel like, oh my gosh, they're vested in this. They actually like this. And think how easy it's going to be when you come in, we're sitting across the table on an interview with each other, and I see that. And that makes me feel good. And it makes me want to ask you about something you actually like. And think about like how much better that interview is going to go. And like, you can be like, man, I get to talk about something I really like, that I really believe in, that I've done for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years. Now it's not an interview anymore. Now it's just a conversation, right? Now we're just two people. And when we just start talking as two people, that's a really, really successful interview. And if you get to the interview portion, it doesnn't matter what your GPA is anymore. It doesn't matter what your DAT is anymore. It means we're considering you just as well as we're considering every other person who gets an interview. So the easiest way to succeed is to form a relationship fast. And one of the best ways to do that is show me you actually like to do the things that you have down on your application. I'm going to ask you why you like them. I'm going to ask you how you got into that in the first place. Who have you met? What stories would you tell me? What have you learned? How do you think that applies to dentistry? How do you think those lessons you learned can help make you a better dentist one day? And those will be easier answers for you because you genuinely care. Letters of recommendation. They're big. You guys would be really, really surprised when I read letters of recommendation and I see somebody write me like a real letter, right? They don't just write me, David Rice was a good student and you got an A in my class and seems like a nice guy. They write something real because they know you. So when you are looking for letters of recommendation, yes, it's nice if you happen to know the dean of the school. Yes, it's nice if it's the chair of the department. Yes, it's nice if it's a dentist who maybe has some kind of national presence so somebody can look it up and say, oh my gosh, I know that name. It's nicer, however, if you're really connected to those people. So they take the time to write you a real letter. They invest time. They're not rushing. They're not doing it because they feel obligated to do it. They just really, really want you to succeed in life. So I would really recommend, depending on where you are in this process, start early if you can. Start targeting people you want to ask. Maybe ask them crazy early and tell them, hey, I'm not ready for it now, but I'd really love it if 6 months from now or a year from now, you could help me with the letter. what things can I do to, to help make that easy for you? And the more you make it easier for the letter writer, the better your letter is going to be. And last but certainly not least, your personal statement is of epic importance. So I don't want you guys to recreate your application in your personal statement. You don't have to regurgitate everything that you've already typed out and filled in blanks on. What I really want to know is your story. What makes you unique? What makes you different? Why you, right? If there are a couple hundred people applying for the same spot, what's going to jump out on paper and make me think like, oh, I really want to meet this person? So spend some time in thinking about your story. Why do you want to be a dentist? What happened in your life? Who did you meet? Was there an experience? Somebody you met along the way, family, friend, or just random, you shadowed someplace and something just really caught your attention. Tell me that story. Tell me that story with emotion. And for those of you who are really great writers, you're a step ahead of the game. For those of you who aren't the best writers, don't stress. Just take some time, write your best, and then maybe sit down and start making buddies with an English professor who is a great writer, who can help you take your ideas and craft the story from start to finish so it flows really nicely and it makes sense. So me as a reader takes it in and feels the experience that you're trying to share. Those, by the way, are two dental students, now dentists, actually. One's a pediatric dentist, one is a general dentist. But at Ignite, when we're live, we host, in-person events. So hopefully we'll be doing that again. I'm sure at some point many of you will go to one. But we have a lot of fun. We do lots of cool things. So they're trying on some loops at one of the events we had. It was really cool. That's Abby and Gabby, if you believe it or not. All right. So typical day in my life. Well, typical day in my clinical life is what you see on the left-hand side of the screen. That's myself. That's Christy. Christy's my dental assistant. And we do dentistry together. We do like bigger case dentistry for the most part when I do that. So I do help a lot of people with their smile. I do help a lot of people, even when we're doing sort of like routine dentistry, we tend to treat, multiple teeth at a time. So I deal with people who either are like you and me and they're really into dentistry, so they understand how important it is, or I deal with people who maybe didn't have every opportunity in life to see the dentist and now we're kind of rehabilitating them. But my typical day is in the practice is working side by side with Christy. She's awesome. She makes my life so easy. And hopefully if she were here, she would tell you I make her life okay too. The other part of it and my day-to-day life is what you see on the right-hand side is we record almost everything we do, both on video and with photography, because I speak and because I connect. So it's really important if I'm in front of a room of people and I'm trying to explain a clinical procedure, or I'm trying to explain how to have a great conversation with the patient so they do feel comfortable, so they understand what we're trying to teach them, so they say yes to the dentistry that they need. We try to capture that content all the time. So in our practice, procedures tend to take a little longer than they would otherwise because we need time to set up all of our AV equipment. We need time to break it all down. And we need time to have all of our patients sign release forms. So they know that I speak, they know that I post things on social media. And it's super, super important for when you guys get into dental school that you have patients sign a release and that you also make sure that your dental school is okay with that. I have personally helped 7 dental students in the last 2 years to try not to get thrown out of their dental school because they've taken pictures without permission, or they created their own release form and the school said, no, this is our dental school. You're just a student here. You don't get to do that. So word of caution, this is a cool way, even as a dental student, to start building a library of things. But please, 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 when you get to school, make sure your school is okay with it. And if they are, awesome. Start building your content. And if you need help with that, you guys can reach out to me when you get to that stage of the game. But we do that every day in our practice. This is some of the kind of fun stuff we do. So we see patients who come in. On the left side is the pre-treatment of a patient who, believe it or not, is a dental hygienist. She was petrified till she didn't work in our practice. So she's a dental hygienist in another dental practice. She knows we do a lot of cosmetically driven dentistry. She didn't want to let her dentist do the treatment. She talked to like 6 different people, and one day she landed in our practice. And I was really, really grateful because we do this all the time. I was grateful that she did her homework because very sadly, most of the dentistry we do is redoing other people's dentistry that isn't that old, especially when it comes to smiles. There's a lot to it. There's a lot of things that you need to look at that are science-based. There's metrics and that we can measure, but a lot of it really is artistic as well. And how do you take the measurements and then customize them to everybody who sits in your chair? But all we did on her was a little bit of bonding, so tooth-colored material on her eye teeth, on her canine teeth, and then we did 4 porcelain veneers on her 4 front teeth. And I hope you guys look at that and think like, oh yeah, I could have that in my mouth. That looks pretty good. And a lot of TLC. So I can't tell you how many hours we spent with this hygienist before she felt comfortable enough for us actually to do the dentistry. You can see on the left side, right? She knows dentistry, but despite knowing it, she didn't really want to let anyone touch it for a long, long time. So the dentistry for me was really, really fun. The getting a patient who knew exactly what she wanted, but was really afraid to do it, and helping her overcome that was even more fun to help her with that. And then we do stuff like this. This is pretty normal. Lots of dentists do this, right? So on the left-hand side, there's just some teeth. There were some cavities. And on the right-hand side, we put bonded tooth-colored fillings in each of those teeth. So that's kind of like everyday stuff. We like to take a little bit of extra time. We like to make sure that teeth look like teeth. I want to be able to look my patient in the eye and say, I know that the American Dental Association says that tooth-colored fillings are probably only going to last 6 years, but I can tell you in our office, they last between 19 and 20 years. And it's because we take more time and we kind of dot every I and we cross every T. So that's just some of the regular stuff we do. And this is kind of fun. So this patient on the left-hand side, same thing. We did some porcelain veneers. There are a couple porcelain crowns in there. Let's see if this plays or not. We do a lot of that with technology. So we scan everything digitally as opposed to making physical impressions, the goopy stuff that goes in your mouth. And I know some of you probably had experiences with that. And there are different scanners, different pieces of technology on the market. Some of them are like way up here, amazing. Some of them are just so down here, and most of them are somewhere in the middle. So one of the things you'll need to do as a dentist is figure out which one's the right one for you. And sometimes that's really clear cut. Like in the world of scanning, there are maybe 3 scanners that are better than the other 30 scanners that are out there. And sometimes it's just a matter of figuring out which one's the best fit. But dentistry's come a long way. It's really cool not only to do dentistry like this, where you can make teeth really look like natural teeth. So on this patient, their top 8 teeth are artificial. Their bottom teeth are all natural. And our goal was just to make them blend and look as harmonious with the rest of his mouth as we possibly could. And this is another person who's in dentistry. He actually works in the industry and happens to work for the company that manufactures this particular type of porcelain called Emax. So we're really lucky in our practice that lots of our patients they have high dental IQs. So they're in dentistry in some way, shape, or form, whether they're dentists, specialists, hygienists, dental assistants, or they work on the industry side. And one of the things we worked really, really hard at over the years was to become the dentist to the dentist. We thought if we could do that, boy, we would be in a really great position, because every time a patient of ours goes to see a specialist and the specialist says, hey, who's your general dentist? And that patient says, I don't have a general dentist. Where should I go? It's really cool when the oral surgeon or the orthodontist or the endodontist or the periodontist says, well, my dentist is, and imagine that every time they say that, it's you. Imagine how much easier it is for people in the community to trust you when they were referred to you by another dental person. So that's been really fun for us over the years. And technology is a really important part of dentistry today, both from the patient experience as well as from other people in dentistry recognizing that you are willing to invest in a higher level. So that's the practice side. This is the speaker side. So like I said, sometimes I'm in a room of a couple hundred people. That was at a dental conference called Dentsply Sirona World. They run that conference once a year, and it rotates. So sometimes it's in Orlando. I know we have some Florida people here. So sometimes it's in Orlando, and then in the other year it goes to Las Vegas. This particular one was in Orlando. That's a way better one when you're there to speak and work, because, you know, going out till 3 a.m. is probably bad if you're supposed to be in a suit in front of a room full of people. So but that's really, really fun. And on the right-hand side was that conference I told you that was for a fashion conference. It was super cool. So you guys would recognize all the biggest brands you would know, whether you're female or male, from clothing to makeup to athletic wear. And it was just a really cool example, again, of people saw that I create a lot of video. So they saw a bunch of videos, and the person who runs this conference said, this person's different, but seems to know a lot about people and business. And he was smart enough a guy to realize, just like you and I need to realize, that like business is business and people are people, and skill sets cross over. So I had to do a lot of studying for that one. I had to learn all about something called the supply chain. That's how the fashion world works and how they all work together, so I could relate. But once I learned that, I just had to talk to them about being a leader. And you and I do that all the time. We lead our teams and we lead our patients. And I think, last piece in my typical day is on the dental side. I don't know if you've gone to any yet, but we have conferences. We have trade shows, and some of them have, 1,000 people, and bigger ones have 20, 30, 40, 50,000 dental people who go, and you meet awesome people. So that's my wife, Anastasia, again, in there. She also speaks in the industry. And then the gentleman to her right is Samir. And then we're getting photobombed by somebody else in Samir's company called Credit. So we get to meet all these people who work in the industry that you and I end up buying products from. So sometimes it's a dental material, sometimes it's a bank, sometimes it's an insurance company, sometimes it's a lending institution like Credit. So they help our patients afford treatment. So you and I don't have to let them pay us over 10 months. They can pay Credit over 10 months. And that's one of the most fun things I get to do in that world of connection. I get to meet all these awesome people in different parts of dentistry. And again, when I was a new dentist, I didn't know any of this stuff. I stumbled into a lot of it. So I'm really glad you guys are here. Gosh, one of the questions that y'all had was, what kind of complaints do people have? And when you have this hybrid life, you have different groups of people who have different concerns. So my patient concerns are probably all the patient concerns that you've heard from other dentists before. Nothing really new. My team concerns, some of them are what you've heard before. Some of them are how to make sure how we build a better culture. We have people in our team who are single parents. So they have different needs, right? If you're a young single parent, you have a different need than somebody on our team who's older and maybe their kids are up and out of the house, but maybe they have aging parents. So as the leader, like you and I, we have this constant sort of commitment to know exactly who's on our team, to know what they need from us, to know what's most important to them. Because when we can help the people on our team achieve their goals, then they're really, really happy to help you and I achieve our goals, which I love. Family, my family thought I was crazy when I started Ignite DDS. They thought, what are you doing? You're a dentist. You have this great practice. You do that 4 days a week. Why in the world would you do something new and run around and take all these chances? So my family complained lots about when I started Ignite DDS. My friends, everybody has their sort of viewpoint. You guys know that already, right? You're going to do one thing and you're going to have half your friends think it's a good idea and the other half of your friends think it's a terrible idea. And really what it boils down for me and why I wanted to share with you this Robin Williams quote is exactly what he said. This is your life. if I can play a role in your life and help you, I can share with you what I know objectively, statistically, that will help you get to any number of pathways in dentistry. I can tell you the strengths, I can tell you the weaknesses, I can tell you how to get to be successful in each one of those paths. But at the end of the day, nothing that I share or nothing that anyone else shares with you matters more than what you want in life. So use mentors to learn about all the possible pathways. And then when you identify the pathway that you think is the right one for you, then focus your time with mentors who operate in that lane. So my practice is a practice, and we do big case dentistry. I have friends who hate big case dentistry. So if you were one of my friends, it would be really bad for you to come to me as a mentor, because I couldn't help you with seeing 50 patients a day. I don't do it. I would be the wrong person to ask. Now, I could introduce you to people, because part of my job in this hybrid world is a connector. But I want you guys to really understand that there's no universal cure for mentors. I'm going to give you some guidelines as to how to find great mentors, but there's no universal cure, and don't let anyone tell you how to live your life. Know what makes you happy every day. Know what makes you excited when you wake up in the morning. And instead of, finding all the reasons and all the people who tell you why that can't be done, just learn from the people who are already doing it really, really successfully. Because we're very lucky in dentistry. There's lots of good people who will want to help you guys be successful. So that segues really what, if I were you, knowing what I know about mentors, what I would look for. I kind of put these in silly buckets, but you need a model, a cheerleader, and a contrarian. The model is the person that you see yourself as. The model is the dentist that you say, hey, that guy or that gal, they practice the way I think I want to practice. And maybe you have one mentor like that, maybe you have two, but they're people that you can look at and say, boy, they're already doing what I think I want to do. That's a really important bucket of mentors. The second bucket is you do need cheerleaders. You guys probably have already had those mornings where you wake up and you're like, oh my God, I can't do this one more day. This is crazy. I don't want to do it. I just want to go be a bum on the beach someplace. I just want to escape. And we all have those days. We all have those moments. The trick is to turn a day or half a day into like a minute or two, to have a bad minute or two. And what I found helps me turn bad days into just bad minutes is to have mentors who believe in me when I start losing faith. They believe in me when I start worrying that I can't do it. So they're always there to kind of pick me up, get me excited, keep me motivated. They're my cheerleaders. And then the last set of mentors that's really, really important, and this is the one that most people miss, because some people would look at the contrarian and say, oh, they're just negative. Oh, everything I say that's a win, they say is a loss. But I'm here to tell you guys, having the person who looks at life 180 degrees from you, that's a really valuable mentor, because they see your blind spots. They pick out all the little things that you might miss if it was just you or all your cheerleaders or people who are highly successful already, right? Because people are highly successful, they don't see the blind spot anymore. They're past those blind spots. So you want to have somebody you can model yourself after. You want to have some people who can help lift you up and keep you happy and excited every day. And you want to have some people that you can go to and say, hey, I'm thinking about going to this dental school in Gainesville, Florida. And you want somebody to say, like, you know what, I heard that's a really good dental school at U of F, but have you ever considered here? And then they're able to give you a list of reasons why, not just to give you don't go there, but give you a why maybe that's not the great place for you, why this could be a good place for you. And we're not actually picking on U of F. It's one of my favorite schools, FYI. All that stuff considered, my favorite mentor quality deals with these two ladies that you see on the screen. So this was in the Olympics a few years back, and I want you guys to picture the marathon. And I want you to picture what Olympic athletes go through to train, right? So, I mean, if you said bare minimum, they're training like 4 to 6 to 8 years to get into the Olympics, but most Olympians train their whole lives. And I want you to imagine that during that race, the young lady on the ground, Abby D'Agostino, wipes out, turns her ankle. And then I want you to imagine the other young lady who's next to her, racing to win a medal, stops. She stops in the middle of the race. And what was more important to her in the middle of the Olympics, which she's worked for her whole life, it was more important for her to be a person of integrity, to be a person who cared for somebody else. And she stopped and she picked up this runner and they worked together to finish the race, knowing she wasn't going to win a medal. But think about the integrity of that person. Think about that those are the people you want to surround yourself with. Those are the people you want to learn from. That's the person you want to become. Because I guarantee you, like, that was an awful day for her to not medal, right? Nikki Hamlin didn't medal because she stopped to help pick Abby D'Agostino up. But boy, I promise you, there were like hundreds of thousands of people who couldn't wait to talk to her afterwards and find out like what drove her here to do something so incredible. And at the end of life, right? At the end of life, like what's going to matter more? Her stopping in that moment, or maybe getting a bronze medal or a silver medal, or maybe even the gold medal. So remember, these things, like, it doesn't matter if you guys are 18, 19, or when you're 50, 60 years old, who you are speaks so much more loudly than your words. Like, people aren't going to even hear what you have to say. This is what really matters too. You're going to have lots and lots of people give you advice. So here's my 6 take homes from you. And they boil down to one word. They boil down to habits. Your habits are what are really going to define your success. So all the things we talked about up until now, when you have strong habits, are going to work. When you have not so strong habits, they're going to work against you. So as you try to figure out your next steps in life, it's really important to start with number 1. You have to have a clear view of what you want. This is going to help you figure out what dental school to go to. Have a clear vision of who you want to be when you grow up. Do you want to be a general dentist or a specialist? Because there are some dental schools that put out lots of general dentists. There are other dental schools, like if you went to Harvard or Columbia, and you're going to graduate as a general dentist, you might be like one of 2 or 3 people in your whole class. Columbia and Harvard, like they graduate surgeons. So you have to know where you're going to want to go. Or, people in academia, if that's your thing, man, go there. But if you want to be a general dentist, maybe not maybe not the best place to go. So you have to see what you want to do, see who you want to be when you grow up in life. The next thing you have to do is you have to generate this energy, right? You have to be able to wake up every day and be happy. So when we talked about what dental school do you go to, you're going to look at the strengths. What does the school have to offer that you like? You're going to look at the weaknesses. You're going to look at how much school costs. And then you got to figure out, if you go to that school, can you wake up every morning or most mornings? Can you be excited to be there? Because it's going to be a grind. So can you get excited? And can you generate excitement with your friends, your classmates, right? When you're in dental school, or right now, where you all are right now, some of your mentors should be each other. Some of your best friends can be your best mentors, right? They're either going to be the cheerleader or they're going to be the contrarian. They're not going to be that other bucket, the people who are already highly successful, because you guys are going through it at the same time. But you can have great mentors in each other, and a lot of it can be generating energy. So the day you don't feel like getting up and going to class, the day you don't feel like putting in that extra hour, that might be the difference that gets your GPA to a 3.9 versus a 3.7. Because you guys know, right? There's only like that much difference between those 2 GPA points. Third one's create urgency. Some of the most successful people I know, either as students or as dentists, as researchers, academics, industry, it doesn't matter. Everything is urgent. So we look at life and think, boy, we would like to accomplish X today. I want to do it today. That doesn't mean I have to accomplish everything today, but I have to figure out today what's going to help me take a step closer to my vision, right? What gets me closer? So I have to know what my vision is, or I might take steps in lots of different directions, and then probably most of those steps are wasted, which means I'm losing energy. But if I know where I want to go, if I can generate energy and then I can create urgency and I can just take a step or two every day, then I don't ever have to sprint. I just constant progress. The tortoise and the hare. Tortoise is going to win. We just have to keep taking steps, which leads me to 4. It's about being productive. So every single day, like map out in the morning, what do I want to get accomplished today? What are those steps? Make sure at the end of the day, you can, where you grab your phone or you grab your list or whatever app you use to keep score of things. There are lots of good ones out there. There's plenty you guys know, like, Basecamp is one that we use for Ignite, but you can work it with each other and help hold each other accountable, but to make sure that you're staying productive, to make sure that you don't wake up on Sunday night and realize you've got 10 things to do on Monday and you've only done 3 of them. And now you got to be crazy productive and you're going to be energy like deficient. And then the vision isn't going to be so clear anymore because it was like the worst Sunday in the whole world. Number 5 is develop influence. So everything you're trying to do to get into dental school, if you think about it, it's you being influential. It's you influencing people to write you a great letter of recommendation. It's you being influential when you sit in an interview room to try to get that board of people to look at you and see you as someone who belongs in the program. When you graduate from dental school and you do a post-grad program, it's your ability to influence that post-grad program. When you work for me in my dental practice, you have to influence me to get a job. You have to influence the team who, they've known and liked me for 25 years. So how did you influence them to like you too, to help you succeed with our patients? And then eventually you buy a practice and you're the leader. So clearly you're trying to influence people all the time. So your whole life is about all of these 6 and 5 being influence. And then the 6th one is you got to have courage. This isn't easy, right? This isn't easy. It's not easy to get into dental school. When you get there, it's not going to be an easy 3 or 4 years, depending on where you go. And being a young dentist isn't easy. I talk to probably 20 young dentists a day, and we talk about all the struggles that they go through as a young dentist, which are really familiar to me because 9 out of 10 of them, I went through them too. But you have to be courageous. And you have to know that when you feel down or you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm overwhelmed, that you're not the only one. There's lots of you walking through this right now, and you're all going through the same thing at the same time. There's lots of people who went through it last year and 5 years and 10 years ago and 27 years ago. And, I'm here to tell you guys, like, I felt overwhelmed too. There were days I didn't feel good enough too. Days I questioned if I made the right decision too. You just have to have the courage to kind of power through it. And I show you these pictures of geese. I don't know if you know anything about geese, but they do really, really cool things. So I'm a big fan of like life stories and nature stories because they're truisms and they cross over to lots of things and they're tough to argue, right? So if you look at a flock of geese, you notice, right, there's always one in front. And if you think about who's the toughest goose to be, the ones in the back, the ones in the middle, or the ones up front? One up front, right? If you're second in line, third in line, fourth or fifth, you have at least another goose in front of you and another one to the left or the right of you. So you have some support. And when you look at all of these 6 things we need to work on, it's kind of good to have a buddy. But that lead goose is tough, right? Who are they looking at? They're just looking at sky. And they have all these geese behind them. And these geese are relying on them, trying to know, like, am I going in the right direction or not going in the right direction? So that's the courage piece, because you're going to be the lead goose, like it or not. Even as a young dentist, when you go to work for me, like, I'm going to have a team of geese who look to you, team of patients who look to you. But if we had more time, I could actually give you like a whole 2 hours on geese. It's kind of fun. They do some other really amazing things, but it's a really good analogy. So when you're bored one day, Google all the cool stuff they do. So here's what really matters, right? All we were talking about that last slide, and even the slides up to it, is got to work on 2 things. You have to work on building good habits, and you want to break your bad ones, right? If you break a bad one and you don't replace it with a good one, you're probably going to add another bad one in there. So just start paying attention to all the habits that help you, and then all the habits that maybe don't help you, and work on how you replace them. This is so cool. This is the quote that I think of when I see those two runners, and it's so true in life. What you do speaks so loudly, I can barely hear your words. If I could leave you really with any major life lesson, it's be who you say you are. The worst thing in the world is to tell me how amazing you are and let me down. I'd rather you just tell me you're okay, right? Letting someone down is the worst thing in the world. We have some really cool resources for you guys. I'm not sure how many of you have ever been on ignitedds.com. All the stuff we have there for you is free. My goal is to help you guys get to a good place. So what I did today, FYI, we are revamping our dental school guide. It's an amazing guide. It was built by a bunch of dental students and young dentists who are all on our team. Super cool. So it maps out all the schools that are there, what they have to offer, what types of procedures you get to do, don't do, the whole 9 yards. It's super genuine, authentic. We are revamping it right now. So a new version of the guide will be up on our website in 2 weeks. So if you go there now, you'll see this, but you won't be able to click on it because we've taken it down. But if you guys follow us at ignitedds on our Instagram page, I just posted a little picture. I actually tagged your dental shadowers, but if you go there and you want access to that guide once it's up, if you just let me know you want one, then we'll let you know when the newest one comes out. All you need to do is head to the website and you can download it as a PDF. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with me tonight. Thank you for the invitation. I really, really appreciate it. Like I said, you can hunt me down on Instagram. That might be the easiest place for you to hunt me down, but you guys are certainly all welcome to reach out. I'm happy to help you any way that I can.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rice, for sharing those Ignite DDS resources and for that very insightful presentation. Now I'm going to hand it over to Kathleen for any questions we have in the YouTube live chat.
Yes, so we have a few questions. The first question is, what are some pros or cons of being a practice owner?
Awesome question. All right. Pros. Almost too many to list. But the most important pro of being a practice owner is you're in total control of your destiny. So lots of people worry that if you're the owner, all the responsibility falls on you. But when you become an employee, still lots of responsibility falls on you. So the pro is you get all these benefits of controlling your future. The pro is, and you guys, this is the perfect time to share this pro with you. It's COVID, right? So what do you think happened to lots of young dentists when practices shut down? They all lost their job. I didn't lose my job because I'm my own boss. So I got to keep my job. So being your own boss means you have total control. There's also lots of business wins and there's lots of tax wins. And I would tell you guys, if we had hours together, that don't stress about your student loans, stress about taxes in life. You're going to pay more to Uncle Sam than your student loans ever will. So when you're an owner, you get lots of advantages. The main disadvantage is ultimately everything falls on your shoulders. So as a dental associate, maybe you have responsibilities during the day, maybe you have to take call, but at some point you get to pick up the phone and call me and say like, hey, this really isn't my thing. You're the owner. That's on you. So you get a little bit of a relief there.
Have you participated in any pre-dental internships during your undergraduate and graduate years?
So when I was you guys, we weren't lucky enough to have pre-dental programs like you have. So I don't have any personal experience from a student standpoint. I can tell you I participated in tons of pre-dental programs with Ignite DDS, however. So we've worked with probably 40 different schools in person. And then we've done, I don't know, too many virtual programs to share. So I understand what you are all going through. And I would just encourage you that when you have any question, nothing's silly. I promise you, if you ask it, I've been asked it 100 times before, and I'm happy to answer what I can for you.
With your experience in dental admissions, do you have a success story you can share?
Yeah. Let's see. I'm trying to think of one of the cooler ones I've had. think one of the coolest ones I had was somebody who was a non-traditional applicant. So was a musician before they applied to dental school. And it was a really cool example of how dental schools today truly want total diversity and inclusion, which is amazing because it wasn't like that 27 years ago. So it was, I think, a good example of, and for all of you, is if you love music, show me music. Yeah, show me show me like all your great science scores, right? Like you still need A's in bio, chem, physics. You still need a great DAT score. But if you satisfy those minimum requirements, like just show me you. Those are the most successful people I've ever met. And when I still remember when that person came in and we started talking about music, like her eyes just lit up. That's what I want to see when we're across the table from each other. I want to see your eyes lit up because you're so excited to tell me about you.
What do you feel is the most rewarding part of dentistry?
Ooh. So that changed for me. Today, I would tell you the most important part of dentistry for me is the connection part. I love connecting people to people so you can be more successful than me faster, because I made lots of mistakes. My friends made lots of mistakes. And it's not to say you won't make mistakes, but you should make different ones than we've all made. Don't remake the ones we made. And when I was a young dentist, probably the coolest thing I did was the actual clinical dentistry I showed you earlier. I still love to do that, but I love more when that patient comes back and I get to see the person, or I'm introducing people.
What's the difference between being a general dentist with no residency and a general dentist in a GPR program?
Good question. So experience. So if you look at research, most research would say it takes you and I about 10,000 hours to master something. And as a new graduate, you're going to have like 500 hours tops, maybe less. So you have very, very little experience. When you do residency of some sort, even though it's only 1 or 2 years, depending on the program that you attend, you're doing dentistry all day, 5 days a week, but you're doing it with people like me with a lot of experience who are present if you need us. So we bring all of our years to the table. So in that 1 year, you probably do 3 times the dentistry that you did in all of dental school. So your experience shoots through the roof, which means when you get into practice, you're going to be much more confident with your patients. That's huge. When you walk into a room and you feel confident, patients know it. When you walk into a room and you're not that confident because you've only done the procedure 1 or 2 times, patients know it. Teams know it. And guys like me know it. And there are a lot of dental practices out there that will hire you with no residency experience. That is very true. So know that that's true. But if you're looking for a high-end dental practice, they're going to want you to have the experience of a residency.
How do you approach patients who either resist treatment or are unhappy with treatment results?
Also a great question. So for me, I'm always trying to learn what's most important to the patient. So what drives them? Before we all kind of got on live together, we were talking about psychology and human behavior. So my job when I meet a patient is to understand what motivates them. So in dental school, you're going to learn all this dental jargon. You're going to learn all the science, all this techie stuff. And unfortunately, your patients, they don't understand that. So most dentists talk to their patients in techie language, and patients don't get it. They deny treatment or they're unhappy. But it's really because they just don't understand what you and I understand. So how we handle it in our practice is we've spent a lot of time studying how people think, what they want, how they behave, so we can help them to truly understand how important what we do is and why. And when a patient understands everything you understand, then they say yes, they're happier. And honestly, like a lot of stuff just doesn't go wrong so long as you're doing dentistry the way dentistry was supposed to be done. And in the unlikely event that something does go wrong, again, if you've spent 10,000 hours mastering communication and you have a real relationship with a patient, like most people expect something could go wrong in life. It's how we handle what goes wrong that makes the biggest difference. So you guys have all bought something before and it got shipped to your house from Amazon, it was broke, or it was the wrong color. It's more about how Amazon takes that back that makes you happy or unhappy than, it coming broke in the mail, because they can't control the mail. Same sort of thing.
Thank you, Dr. Rice. That's all the time we have for questions today, but thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. I hope you guys have a great night. Good luck.
Yeah, thank you so much again, Dr. Rice. And also thank you everyone for joining us today. Kathleen will go ahead and post our post-session quiz in the chat, and make sure to join us tomorrow for our, we have a second session this week tomorrow, also at 6 p.m. Eastern. So thank you everyone. I hope everyone has